So we will move into key takeaways. And I'll let Alyssa start with her key takeaways.
Mine are, really going back to why this all matters. So it matters because it's the law and you want to protect your company, your organization, your client from risk. And this is good practice to mitigate risk, is to understand this world of gender identity and to understand how to be conversant. So if you have whether it's a client who's transgender themselves, or whether you have a client who is trying to figure out how to accommodate or include and welcome transgender and gender non-conforming employees, this is really the very minimum, and it's evolving. So you have to stay current, so that does mean training and it does mean doing research. But then going beyond that, it means, do we want to be a good business that has a highly diverse and inclusive and empowering workplace where people can bring their full selves and not cover themselves at work? And that needs to go beyond, and that needs to you need to help your clients and your companies and workplaces become really conversant in this. And that takes practice, and it might get you out of your comfort zone. And I think that this is what is the hardest thing for any of us that is practicing in this area, is that because it changes quickly and because there's such proliferation of this language, you get a sense of people kind of eye rolling and sort of saying to you, this is annoying and it's such a burden. I would say a key takeaway is to really remember that the burdens are really on the people who have to deal with that every single day and figure out how to bring themselves to workplaces that don't necessarily understand them, or in a culture and a world that doesn't understand them, may not even have language for them. To that point, names, pronouns, language really, really matters. So keeping up with that and trying really hard in that area makes a big difference. And doing the necessary audits and internal looks to see where the language is coming into play will help. But I would say to really mitigate and minimize risk, showing a good faith effort that you're trying goes a long way. So it may be that we have trouble saying they, them, their pronouns, or switching if somebody is asking for that. But I think you're going to avoid a lot of risk just by making that demonstrated effort that you're doing your part to understand and to try.
Great. And on the legal rights and responsibilities side, as we've talked about, gender identity and expression are legally protected characteristics. We can quibble about what Title VII does and what's going to happen with it, but we know that here in Massachusetts and in many, many states across the country, transgender people are protected, and gender identity and expression are legally protected. Within those protections, gender identity and transition are both broad and flexible concepts. There's generally no litmus test. There's no certain surgery that you have to have, hormones that you have to be taking, amount of time that you need to be using certain pronouns. And then finally, remember the framework when addressing issues in the workplace that come up around transgender individuals: respect, privacy, inclusion. I cannot emphasize that privacy piece enough because, again, it kind of goes against our human nature to be curious about things, but we always should be asking ourselves, do I really need to know this information? And if not, I'm not going to ask it.